Welcome back to Ciminelli Chats, where we aim to share the latest news, real estate industry insights, and announcements. I'm Grace Harner, and today we have two fantastic guests joining us, Tom from Invest Buffalo Niagara, and Greg, who runs the organization's Talent and Attraction Initiative at Be in Buffalo. Tom, Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Grace.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Tom, before we jump in, as the CEO of such a prominent organization in Buffalo, could you tell me about where it all started and a little bit about the tie with Be in Buffalo?
Sure. Well, back in the late 90s, the community was concerned about its trajectory. And so a number of private and public sector leaders got together and decided that they needed to do something about it. So they put together resources, hired a bunch of consultants who came in and said, well, you have everything you need in this community to be successful in the future. You were successful in the past, but you need to change your thoughts about promoting the region, getting everybody to work together, and then having a delivery system that will secure investments of jobs and bring the community to prominence again. So they formed our organization. We're a 501c6, so we're a private not-for-profit. We also have a 501c3, and you'll hear a little bit about that. That's where we have our talent attraction initiative. But our primary mission is to market our community to decision makers that can bring investment and jobs in targeted sectors that we've done a number of studies in and can verify advanced computing, sensor technology, green tech, agriculture, main staples and industries of the future that we know we have the natural assets and skills and location to be competitive for future locations. So we went about our work and have had a pretty successful 25 years, it's hard to believe, and now we're looking to take the next step in the future, and that means super regional type marketing initiatives like the tech hubs that everybody's heard about, and that's Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. Getting back together, and it's a little bit difficult now with some of the border relations, but we've always had a strong tie and collegial relationship with Southern Ontario and the greater Toronto area. And we've taken on initiatives after the pandemic, such as economic gardening, working with second-tier companies and convincing them to grow here rather than somewhere else. The talent attraction, which you'll hear about, and then our two biggest issues, which is talent attraction and bringing people here and keeping people here. But the biggest one that we have facing us is we've been so successful that we've run through most of the available sites and buildings to put companies on in the 8-county area, and so that's required a lot of time and effort to work on that.
Tom kind of mentioned the talent piece of the puzzle there. I think it was maybe 2017 when we started to really see, in some ways, the region becoming a victim of our own success. In some ways, we had this resurgence that people were feeling on the ground had kind of picked up so rapidly that at this point we really started to see like a lack of skilled talent available for employers to hire, and especially as we were attracting new companies and creating new jobs, we needed more people to really get in that race for relevance, as it's so often put. So we went to work in 2019. We launched the Be in Buffalo Talent Attraction Initiative, which is under the Invest Buffalo Niagara umbrella, and it's really kind of our answer to, we're already out there marketing to try and get companies to move to Western New York. How can we get those skilled individuals to maybe choose Buffalo, either for the first time or come back if they grew up here, moved away, but maybe still have family here and still have some affinity for the region. So I head up our Be in Buffalo Talent Attraction Initiative and kind of trying to do that work each day.
I mean, that's great. There's so much momentum in Buffalo lately. Honestly, I want to start with a big question. Why Buffalo? What makes the city such an attractive place to live, work, or grow a business, really?
Yeah, I can take the talent side first. What our pitch to people is really like the access to these big city amenities that Buffalo offers, right? We're in your cool downtown office space right now. We got public transit downstairs, awesome bars and restaurants, the Sabres right down the street, the Bills down in Orchard Park. Like, we have all this art, culture, sports, dining. In some ways, we punch above our weight, but often at a much lower cost compared to other mid, small, large-sized cities that we're competing against. So in some ways, that's our pitch. A lot of times we're talking to expats that grew up here. And like I mentioned, they have some kind of affinity for the region. They went to college here. Their parents still live here. Like, and we always say, it's once you get somebody on the ground here in Buffalo, they're not going to leave. So if you have that kind of familiarity with the region, it's an easier sell to get them back. So a lot of times we're talking to those expats that already know all the great stuff that Buffalo has to offer. At that point, it's just trying to get them the job. And we're growing, we're attracting so many companies and creating new jobs. That's becoming easier and easier too.
Yeah, I can speak from experience there. I actually moved here for college, and like you said, I couldn't leave.
That's the joke, is the second hardest thing is to get somebody to move here. And the first hardest thing is get them to move once they've been here.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you look at the map, we're halfway between the eastern seaboard and the breadbasket of North America. We're proximate to Toronto. We've got water. We've got power. We've got great universities. We've got innovation that matched with industrial output. And we have world-class art galleries, and we have a lot of festivals and good schools. And so if you put it all in a blender, it compares pretty well. What we hadn't done a good job of in the past is marketing it. And as Greg said, we're now kind of a victim of our own success, so we've got to get going here and make sure that we can accommodate the growth that could come here if we can adjust our perspective and our infrastructure to be able to accommodate it.
We talked about that threefold increase in Canadian companies moving or expanding here. What do you think is driving that right now?
From a basic proposition for Canadian business, it's having a Made in the USA label and having a facility here. And on our side of the border, we have groups like ours and the industrial development agencies and chambers that help companies. We offer incentives. We have a very productive workforce. Our role in attracting these companies, and then as we have seen lately, the expansion of the ones that have come here, which is a really good sign, is making sure that even though we think of this as one big neighborhood with our friends to the north, it's another country. So you have different work mores, you have different accounting, legal, and supply chain and customs and those issues, and that's where we help companies figure that out as best we can. And I think the interest now is that we're making major investments as a nation in things that are really important for the future. Technology, semiconductors, all of the things that are involved in the Internet of Things require big water, big power, and access to the largest market in North America, which is the United States. And you can do it all from here and be home for dinner. And that means a lot.
Yeah, an exciting fact that we learned at the beginning of the year that Buffalo is the only city ranked twice in a row by Zillow as the hottest housing market. So that's a huge leg up, but Greg, is there something else that you're working on or a big campaign that might make this the place to be to build careers and stay long term?
Yeah, I think a big part of the talent attraction work is storytelling, right? There's this perception of Buffalo nationally, and it has certainly changed over the last 15, 20 years, but I think there's still work to do. So every day we're battling those perceptions, either negative or indifferent. Where people think it snows all the time here, so we try and lean into that as much as we can. We have a video called "It Always Snows in Buffalo," where we kind of get a little bit cheeky with that fact, playing on the idea that if you've ever been to Buffalo, you certainly know it doesn't actually always snow here, but we do love it here when it snows, and we're not hibernating for those 6 months either, and hiding inside and waiting for it all to melt. So that's a big piece of it. We're leveraging the Bills and their success as much as we can to tell a positive story about Buffalo and try and capture some of the energy. To me, like some of these expats that maybe left Buffalo 20 years ago, maybe because they couldn't find a job. I think at that point, it certainly could have been the case. But it's certainly a different story here now in Buffalo. There's opportunities for people. So it's our job to tell that story and tell the success stories, of Royce, who's profiled on our website and grew up in Pittsburgh, moved to Atlanta, and was just sick of spending 4 hours a day in his car and wanted, to spend some more time with his son. So ended up in Buffalo, and now he gets all that time to spend with his kid. And we have dozens of those type of stories up on the website. So it's trying to elevate those success stories and make sure that people can see themselves in Buffalo, because we know that there's certainly a place for them.
Yeah, I love that. And my favorite thing to say is where the weather's cold, but the people are warm.
Yeah.
What about the relocation guide?
Well, hopefully it goes to print in 2 days. I was in the conference room this morning, and the pages are all spread across the table, and we're making final tweaks. So new versions of the print guide will probably be out within 2-3 weeks. A new digital version will be up on our website. Anybody across the country can request a physical copy that we'll mail to you.
It's amazing.
We've mailed to all 50 states and a bunch of different countries. So there's certainly an appetite to move to Buffalo, and that's part of the optimism that we want to share with people. People do want to be here, and people see the opportunity. You mentioned the Zillow accolade. People understand a lot of what Buffalo has to offer, especially if they're coming from a different place where they're stuck in traffic all the time or can't buy a house for less than $1 million. Like, we certainly have a compelling pitch to make, and we're the people doing it.
Yeah. What's your biggest takeaway, either of you, from the Buffalo relocation guide?
If you go to other communities, you'll see a similar piece that's just loaded with ads. And ours is really supported by local business, but it's a professional presentation that gives you a very concise view and links to get to more information. And it's really designed for somebody coming here or trailing spouse, relocating spouse, I guess it's called. And I think what having lived in other parts of the country, I think the thing that strikes you when you look at it, and I've given it to extended family, and they're like, you captured it right. You get this sense of community, which for us in the attraction business, we're welcoming people either back if they haven't been here in 20 years, or they've never been here and they've always wondered, this part of New York, is it a good place? Will I be able to find people to work at my plant or office? And we know from the Be in Buffalo campaign, the best way to communicate this sense of community that we have here, that if you're here a day, you feel it, is to storytell. So we kind of, in a concise way, use the relocation guide as kind of an extension of the storytelling, but providing a lot of information. And you kind of walk away with, wow, they have a lot of festivals, they have big league sports, they have really good schools. We tell folks that if you're driving for more than 20 minutes, you're lost. And so you have a lot of the amenities of a big city. You're proximate to Toronto. You're a quick plane ride to New York or Chicago or wherever you want to go, and you can enjoy a great life here. You can afford a house in many places. The industries that we're now starting to see come to our part of the world are the where they've clustered in California, in Texas, in Boston area. You work for a long time to afford a home, and here you can actually find a home in a nice neighborhood where neighbors say hello, and there's plenty to do, and you can't find it everywhere. And we know that from businesses that visit here for the first time. They're like, man, we were only here for a day and a half, and you could really feel that the place is coming back, and everybody's very proud of it. And people ask you how you doing and that kind of thing, and that means a lot. So
It does, yeah. It's all about community and events, and also spring's right around the corner, so I know there's a lot to look forward to. Are there any events specifically, Greg or Tom, that you could speak on that you could promote to our listeners right now?
I think Tom touched on the festival season. That'll be coming up through spring and summer. I think that's something, in talking to many newcomers to our region, that's something that really surprises people, is just how many festivals there are and how unique the celebrations all are. So I would definitely encourage anybody new to the region or considering it to check those out. I'm a big baseball fan, so I'm looking forward to opening day at the Bison Stadium and getting baseball back. But to your point, I mean, there's stuff to do in Buffalo all year round, and that's one of the things we tout in the relocation guide, on our website and through all our marketing.
Yeah. One silly fact I always like bringing up is our sister city in Japan. And so I recently just saw that the Cherry Blossom Festival is coming up. The blossoms come physically from our sister city in Japan. Yep. And I find that just amazing. And that goes to show the relationships that Buffalo has with anybody around the world. Somebody's job is to keep that relationship alive and go from Japan to Buffalo and connect the two.
Well, it sometimes falls to us. We have hosted from Bursa, Turkey, which is one of our sister cities, as well as Stuttgart in Germany. And we've actually had some business go back and forth. So it's more than just a moniker and a nice thing to have. If you go to the Lafayette Square, you'll see a fountain that was donated here from Turkey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and you never know in the global economy where an opportunity is going to come from. So.
Yeah. Is there a book on this? I need to learn about our sister cities.
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah. So it might surprise the listeners that we have a pretty good streak running. We'll see if we're able to maintain it, but it's for a region like ours, it's pretty impressive. We've had 6 straight years now of $500 million deals or more being announced each year, and that's pretty incredible amount of investment in new technology and new job opportunities and new industry that wasn't here. And I think that's what's attracting the interest of expats who maybe went to school at RIT or U of R or UB or University of Toronto. All 4 of those have clean rooms on campus, and so they may have gone for a science, a STEM kind of curriculum, and then weren't able to find that job opportunity in our region. Now they're plentiful, and we're looking for good folks, and we're certainly welcoming back those that loved the place but felt like they had to move. And we hope to keep the streak going of big deals. And I think as Micron gets going with their fab that they're building chips in Syracuse, it's going to take the entire state to be able to find all of the workforce. They're going to open with 9,000 jobs. It's a $100 billion investment that's going to anchor really this half of the state for technology. Big numbers, and we're going to need a lot of people. So,
oh, that's incredible! A lot of big stuff. The work you guys are doing is no joke.
No.
So, just before we wrap up here, for any of our listeners who may be considering moving, investing, or just getting more involved in Buffalo, where could they start?
Yeah, on the talent side, I would point them to our website, beinbuffalo.com, and especially the relocation guide, which I mentioned will be launching in the next few weeks here. I think is a great kind of just coffee table book or conversation starter, if you're interested as a place to flip through. But there's spots on the website where you can contact us for help trying to move back, getting connected to jobs, professional development opportunities, volunteer organizations, all that type of stuff. So that's what we exist for, and that's why we launched Be in Buffalo. So I'd encourage folks to check out the website.
And on the business side, it's buffaloniagara.org, and that website just had a major overhaul and investment in it, and it's very navigable. And if you're a small business owner and you're just trying to figure out what the economy is doing here, if you're a larger business and you're looking for a way to reach a market up here, or if you're just an individual that's looking for a new opportunity between the 2 websites, you can really draw down a lot of information that it should be very usable for you.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm glad I have you both here today, and I learned a lot about the partnership between the two. So thank you so much. I'm excited to see how we can partner in the future, but otherwise, I deeply appreciate your enthusiasm and what you're doing for the city.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to check out our show notes with any upcoming Be in Buffalo or Invest Buffalo Niagara events. Stay on the lookout for our next Ciminelli Chats episode. Until next time.